Hey everybody, it's the Commodore from the Clan of the Grey Wolf, and you are watching the 14th installment of the weekly Wringer series. This is the post-PAX East week here on the weekly Wringer. So it's been a week of trying to make sense of all of PAX East and to also try to catch up with the sleep that we didn't get at PAX East. So we've mostly succeeded at both of those things. And this week, we're back to the old digs, as you can see around me, and we're going to wrap that up. The thoughts from PAX East, the question from last week surrounding conventions, inspired by PAX East, and then I'm going to really give you my thoughts and reflect on your comments, as we always do here on The Wringer. And then I'm going to take some time to ask you a question, start a dialogue surrounding some of the old and classic arcade games. So stick around for that. So, last week was PAX East. This is not my place to really kind of wrap up my thoughts from it specifically. But, you know, just to give you an idea, we definitely had a great time. You've seen some of the things that we did while we were there. And there was a lot more going on than what we have shown you on the site and what we will show you on the site. But it's conventions for all of you that have been to some before, especially something on par or on the size, really, of PAX East, on that same scale. You know, it's just rapid fire. There's so much going on. There's so much to do. And we couldn't do it all. There was plenty more we wanted to get done. But it was a great success and a tremendous amount of fun. And I think the prognosis and the future for PAX East is just amazing. So, anyway, so that's a little bit in the ways of wrap up. I'm hoping to get some more together in terms of getting our thoughts for the Clan of the Grey Wolf and PAX East in one consolidated place fairly soon. So, that being said, last week's Wringer that we shot at PAX East really focused around the question of what, if any, reasons do you have for going to conventions, and do you really want to go to conventions? Really got me thinking when I was actually there at PAX East that some people probably don't like to do those things, and some people do, and really ask the question why. Again, tremendous outpouring from the community. You guys gave a lot of very similar answers to what I think I probably would have expected. Some of you really like the idea of going to a convention, and some of you, really just doesn't appeal to you. It's not your thing, you're not interested, and you know what? That's okay too. And lots of good reasons why. I think there are plenty of great things to take in at a convention if you go to one that I think represents your personality the best. And you guys indicated that if you just go to a convention to go to a convention, you're probably not going to have a whole lot of fun. It's a place where you're going to go to plug into a specific community that you probably already belong to, that you probably already have long community ties with, like us in video games, for example. And PAX East, it just seems like a natural fit. If you like board games or tabletop games in general, then Gen Con is probably your place. You can go on and on with that kind of stuff, but generally, you guys pointed that stuff out. I think you're absolutely right. You're looking to connect to a community, and I couldn't agree more. You know, and I think it's worth pointing out. There's nothing wrong with you if you don't want to go to a convention. Some people really like, for example, one of the reasons that our site really works the way that it does is because it comes out of an era that is after the convention in and of itself was really thought up. So people used to go to conventions because there was no internet, right? There weren't any kind of communities that were really represented well online or any way that people could conveniently come together. So the old Star Trek conventions used to pop up because people all over the globe, really starting in the United States, wanted to be able to connect together with other people that liked those things, like Star Trek or what have you, and be able to meet together. So in part, our website, you know, really delivers that's at least a part of that experience. And the reason that it exists is because you could argue that the internet is here now to be kind of the new convention space where people can come together and do whatever they need to do in sharing a common interest, like we do here at the Clan of the Grey Wolf. So I completely understand that some of you don't want to go to a convention. Why go around and make the effort to travel, all those kinds of things. if you can just kind of find the things that you want about the latest news about something you're interested in, or announcements, or you can get your celebrity worship if that's the kind of thing that you do. Whatever the case might be, you can get a lot of that stuff online now, and I completely understand not wanting to go to a convention. That being said, for me, if I'm going to answer the question honestly, the real reason is camaraderie. I think a couple of you really said that. It is absolutely the case. When I went to PAX East last year, that was the first really large convention I'd been to. And it was one of the best weekends of my adult life. I was really quite surprised. It was not a bunch of people walking around, picking their nose, arguing about D&D. Sure, there are people doing that kind of stuff, and I don't mean to stereotype those folks. It's great. But my point is, you really find such a diverse group of people that love the same kind of things that you do, and that's what it's all about. All these diverse groups of folks from all kinds of different walks of life, really no age determinacy at all, and everybody can just kind of sit together and go, man, aren't these things cool? Can't we talk about these things? And that's what conventions should be, and that's exactly the reason why I go to conventions, and why I should say go to conventions. I've been to PAX, and that's really it, and that's all I really plan on going to. Something like Gen Con, Boomer and Rue keep trying desperately to get me to go, but it's just not my thing. And to travel up there and to go just for tabletop, it just doesn't seem like something that I can spend my time on. But going to Boston for a video game convention, or a convention that really stems around a lot of geek culture issues, I'm in. I'm in 10 times out of 10. So my answer really is camaraderie. I think that's the ultimate reason. Sure, the vendors are awesome, and the games are awesome, and the previews, and the people, and the costumes, and I'm surprised more of you didn't pick up on costumes, or whatever the case might be. Of course, maybe there wasn't the greatest number of examples in the video that I shot from the floor, but we saw a tremendous amount of cosplay going on, some better than others. I'll leave that to your imagination. But anyway, so it's just a great feel to be in a huge convention floor. There are thousands of people there, and they all have a very similar interest to you. You know that everyone's there because they love these things just as much as you do, and that's really what conventions are all about. So, great answers, guys. Love them all, and maybe I'll see some of you coming up in conventions in the future. So, a Psychopather this time. That was a fantastic experience, and hopefully be seeing some of you in the future at conventions. All right, so now I want to get into the Weekly Ringer for next week. One of the things we did at PAX East was an inspiration for me. It was a great panel on the General Computer Corporation, which was a group of students from MIT. Some of them dropped out, some of them stayed in on MIT and graduated, but they created this company called General Computer, and it was a way for them for a few years. It was really an arcade business, I should say, surrounding designing and building arcade boards, initially to make sure that some older games like Pac-Man or whatever could get updated without having to buy a whole new cabinet. You just snap a new board on top and it became a new game, or became updated and better. And then later on they started designing their own cabinets and releasing them. That happened all in the very early 80s, when the arcade craze was really at its height. So it got me thinking about all the kinds of cool things and the cool memories. There was also a classic arcade. The Classic Arcade Museum was there, which is always a treat if you ever go to one of these things, or if you actually get to the Classic Arcade Museum, which I believe is in New Hampshire. It's in New England. There is you will have a blast. There are so many great things to do, so many great games to play, and they're doing it. It's a nonprofit. They're just trying to get people to appreciate the games that were there in yesteryear. That really got me thinking, though, and I wanted to ask about it this week in the Ringer, because you guys, I know, have a tremendous amount of experience out there, and I wanted to really maybe get something a little more personal going on the Weekly Ringer, on the comments for this week. Something that maybe you can tell a story about yourself. And the question that I have for you guys this week, for this week's Weekly Ringer, is what is your favorite arcade game? If this could be an experience, whatever the case might, maybe a story, But I want to know. I don't want to know the arcade games you played at your house. I'm not interested in that. I want to know when you used to go to the mall, or when you used to go to the arcade, or even when you went to the pizza place down the corner and they had a Pac-Man machine. What was the game you always played, or the experience with a game that you always loved? What did you tap into when you went to the arcade that really made it an awesome experience? And share that with us. Tell us why. What was it that really drew you there, and what made that experience so incredible? Thinking about the arcades, they're almost all gone now. So let's get some nostalgia kicking here this week on The Wringer, and tell me some of your favorite arcade memories through the beginning question of what's your favorite classic arcade game that you used to play, and that you went back to the arcades and dropped a boatload of quarters in playing. So that is the Weekly Wringer for this week. That'll do it for the 14th installment. Thanks everybody for watching as always. I am the Commodore from the clan of the Grey Wolf, and there is no reset button.